What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Realistic CM. It's episode number 28. And we start today's episode with some youth scouting and also an academy update as well. And I just want to briefly touch on this as we begin today's episode off as well. Now at the moment, I'd say the one thing that's lacking from this series probably is awesome youth players out of the academy. Now we've got a couple that are doing okay. Adam Burris, it was the game winner against AZ Alkmaar in the last game in the last episode. Coughlin, the young centre half we promoted with the exciting prospect tag that does get quite a fair bit of game time and normally does pretty consistently well as part of our backline. So run you through the academy here. There are still some decent players that are remaining in our youth squad. I don't think we picked up anyone from our first batch of scouting for this 9-month mission. As you see, our fixtures for October, a couple of big ones here. Man City at home, Spurs away, our final game, and also RB Salzburg away in Austria as well. Win that one, we'll have 9 points from a possible 9 in the Europa League group stage so far. But yeah, the one thing I will say is that I'm loving how the save is going right now. I'm really glad you guys are enjoying it as well. The realistic element is working really well. It is a very realistic save so far. Everything's sort of going according to plan in the right pace, if you know what I mean. Like, we're not making ridiculous progression so quickly where it's season 3 and we're targeting the Premier League title. You know, it's a very realistic timeline of progression so far. I think the signings, and also, as I mentioned before, the sale destinations have been realistic, as have been the contract negotiations as well. But the one thing we're yet to get at the moment is a standout youth player from the academy. Now, I'll be honest, guys, I'm trying. I am really trying to find like a player with what you call star power, if you will. The player that comes out of the academy. You just know they're going to be a star, like Charles Bull in our QPR save, or Cesar Valencia in our Hamburg save, for example. But it's difficult. Like, I'm finding it quite difficult in this year's FIFA CM. Even, you know, in our Cork to Glory save, we had obviously loads of youth players come out of the academy that made their marks, but that was mainly because the starting overall of our players was so low, so the youth players could come in, and like the likes of Barry Sharkey, Leo Yates, for example, who started off sub 60 overall, because the players in the first team were about the same rating, we weren't taking a significant decrease in our ability. But it's a bit different when you're managing a team where the average rating is like the high 70s. The players that come out of the academy are normally in the low 60s, if that. And of course, we're trying to make progression as the save goes by in a realistic way. As you see here, we beat Nottingham Forest in our first game this episode by 3-0 at the City ground. It's hard to get those players involved too much. We've got quite a few youth players that come out of the academy, but no one really excites me too much to throw them in at the deep end so far. I think Coughlin, who started that game and didn't put a foot wrong, is probably the one so far that's my most exciting youth player, followed probably closely by Adam Burris. But no one so far at the academy has that kind of like star power, that kind of like, you know, like this kid's going to be a star in years to come, you know. So at the moment, it's kind of difficult for me to find those youth players to give a lot of game time to. I do take the point in my saves, the youth players have always had a very prominent sort of role to play in my teams. But at the moment, it's quite hard to do that with Burnley, because again, as we make progression, the team's growing together really nicely, but no one so far at the academy has given me, you know, enough of a reason to throw them into the deep end and have a reduction in my team's ability, you know. So I'm hoping that from this year's worth of scouting, these 9-month missions here in Republic of Ireland and England as well, we'll find someone, or I look at him and just think, this kid's going to be a world beater. But at the moment, just haven't had that yet. But I will say this, it's kind of a good thing. Again, it is kind of realistic, you know, that we're not just throwing in like 4 or 5 youth academy players, yet still dominating in Europa League or whatever. Anyway, for the second game of today's episode, Manchester City at Turf Moor. Good streak for Burnley as well. A really tough start to the campaign, but 5 wins in all competitions after a very difficult beginning to life in Season 3 at Turf Moor. But taking on the English champions, we knew this would be tough. Gabriel Jesus gave the visitors the lead just 2 minutes in. He was the top scorer back in Season 1. And whilst Tyrese Campbell will get us back on level terms in the second half, it was a very end-to-end game. Both teams going for the win. We have been in good form, and that's why I wasn't just settling for the point. But 20 minutes to go, a bit of an unlucky goal this one. Nick Pope makes a great save out the feet of the number 9, but it deflects straight back to the Brazilian, who bags his brace and does his trademark celebration once again. So Man City back in front there 2-1. Bit of an unfortunate goal, but in stoppage time here, I mean, you thought that goal was unfortunate. Sorry, I couldn't help but laugh. But when it happened in real time, let's just say I wasn't laughing. This is ridiculous, man. Grady Diangana trying to step in from the right and shoot, and there are just some goals where you just know the FIFA gods aren't exactly smiling at you, and some games where you just don't get the rub of the green. Diangana's shot blocked, takes a massive deflection and goes all the way up the other end to Silva, who runs through, and despite Ben Mee putting in the tackle, what happens directly after I make the challenge? Comes straight back to Man City. KDB picks it up, says cheers for that one, Ben, and puts it into the back of the net for Man City's third. Look, I don't think Diangana was going to score from 25 yards out. I don't think we were going to draw the game anyway, so I can't be too, angry about what happened there. But it was still like, come on, like that blocked shot, that deflection, ricocheted into a through ball to start a counter-attack for the Viz. It's just one of those goals where you think, really? Come on, man. But that's just how it is. Like I said, all the time, it's the common phrase, you can complete it for me if you want. Luck will, and you know the other 3 words. Free? Balance yourself up. Yeah, of course. Anyway, for the third game of today's episode, on our first loss, on the back of the first loss in 6 here, taking on RB Salzburg away in Austria for match day 3 in the Europa League, and heading into this one after winning our first 2 games. Win this one against the side that were winless to start the group off. We'd have 9 points or a possible 9, and have won every single game to start the campaign off. So after Reece Nelson gave us the lead in the second half, I had a chance to get a 2-goal cushion here and extend the lead and surely wrap up the 3 points as well. Burris spots the run of Aaron Connolly, rolls through our Irish striker, who gets yet another goal to start the campaign. I think that's 3 goals in the Europa League already for our number 33. And he is looking like our best player of the season thus far. Good through ball by the kid. Connolly does the rest, and that means we do win in Austria and maintain our 100% start. So, already, due to the fact that AZ Alkmaar have won 2 of their 3 games and only slipped up to us with their defeat at Turf Moor, we've opened up an 8-point gap on Standard Liège and RB Salzburg as well. And what that means, if we just get one more win from our final 3 games, we will qualify for the knockout stages with 2 games to spare. So we're basically already there. 1 win in 3, that is more than doable, with 2 of our final 3 games being at Turf Moor as well. So this is exactly what I wanted, some breathing room in the Europa League. Based on how difficult the season has been to start with, despite the fact we did have a 5-game win streak just very recently, it has been quite a difficult start, primarily due to managing fitness and fatigue and injuries as well. This is what we wanted, some breathing room in the group campaign. Now we can rotate and rest a few players a little bit more in the final second half of the group campaign. So following game, Fulham here at home, taking on the lads from Craven Cottage. Of course, that FM side, Tyrese Campbell gave us the lead, and like I said earlier, luck will balance itself out with the deflection coming straight back to him, as we got a bit of good fortune for the opening goal. Second half though, still leading by 1, looking for our second goal. Josh Brownhill makes it 2 on the stroke of the hour mark to double our lead and give us some breathing room in this one and give us a little bit of cushion as well. Josh Brownhill, by the way, criminally underrated player in this Burnley team, and just a few minutes afterwards, after Fulham surrendered the ball practically straight from kickoff, Jack Stacey rolls through Brownhill, possibly going to get his second goal of the game, and instead sees Tyrese Campbell at the back stick, who heads into the back of the net to make it 3. So 2 goals in 5 minutes, 3-0 scoreline, and that was how the game would finish as well. So yeah, it had been a tough start for Burnley. 1 win in our first 5, but now we've really picked it up. Yes, we have that loss to Man City, but when you think about it, that's 7 wins in 8 in all competitions. A much better run of form for Burnley. And again, this season the board saying finishing mid-table, but also reach the final of the Europa League. I want to retain our FA Cup if we can. That is going to be really difficult, but after back-to-back FA Cup finals, it's definitely doable. But this is what we need, a much more consistent run of form across all of the competition we're fighting in right now. Well, both Premier League and Europa League as well. For the final game of today's episode, those Spurs away in North London. Red hot start for Tottenham Hotspur to start the campaign off. Right now in 3rd and looking likely they'll be challenging for the title this season. I knew this was going to be a really difficult game. We had a visit of RB Salzburg on Thursday night in match day 4 in the Europa League. Heading into this game was feeling, quite pessimistic, but I didn't expect this to happen. So we fell behind very early on into the game, and Kane made it 2-0 in the second half. And real briefly on Harry Kane, also with the Euros now underway. I don't think we'll see any more developments in his transfer saga, but I think the story is far from finished this summer. Once the Euros are over, I think we'll see the story begin to gather a little bit of pace and a little bit more development happening in regards to whether he's going to leave or stay at Spurs for next season. I still think he'll stay personally. But anyway, 18 minutes to go, we were trailing by 3, and as Heung-min Son made it 4. I mentioned before, momentum in FIFA nowadays at times can be really, really OP. Like, once you concede a couple of goals in quick succession, it's almost like the AI turned from ultimate to super ridiculous mega ultimate, and I just could not stop them. They scored, I think it was 3 goals in the space of, what? 9 minutes? 13 minutes. Really, really hard to stop them, and in the end, a 5-0 defeat. One of our worst defeats of this series so far. 5-0 against Spurs, but as you'll see the league table in just a moment's time, not too surprising as they are on fire to begin the campaign off. But another injury as well. I like it though. Realistic and challenging. James Garner, who's hit the ground running to be fair, got a bit of game time and done quite well in the games he's been given. Corona rating, but he's out for 4 weeks with a sprained knee. So another injury to our Burnley side. So many players have been on the treatment room so far, and let's take a look at the league table here. As you can see, Chelsea leading the way. On the back of that defeat, we dropped to 11th place with 17 points on the board, 5 wins and 11. Not too bad, and a win would take us into the European places. Early days, long way to go. But that will end this episode of the Realistic CM, guys. Big thank you for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, then please do drop a like. Much love to you all. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you for the next episode of the Realistic CM, featuring a chance to qualify for the Europa League knockout stages very soon.